Okay, I think we may as well just go for it. Welcome everyone. Thank you for coming along. This is just a brief session to kind of give everyone a gist of what we've been doing, what's been going on behind the scenes, and sort of what's to come. Because I think as much as we're putting stuff out there on social media all the time, I think it's not necessarily clear exactly how much work is going on in the background. So yeah, this is just an opportunity to kind of give everyone an idea of what's going on, and then we're gonna probably chat for, I think we'll have presentations from people for sort of 20 minutes or so, maybe a little bit longer, and then we can open the floor for questions if anybody has them. So I think we're going to work down through what we refer to as our work packages, and they include all the different areas that we're covering, which sounds a bit technical in the name, but as we go through it, it will make more sense to people. So to kick off, I think we're going to hear from, is it Martin and Liz, about the work that they've been doing on work package 2, which is the creative work to do with the project.
Hey, yeah, so nice to see everybody. As many of you know, we've got 12 artists and writers, a few more in collaboration, doing various things across all of the ports, looking at the crossings in the Irish Sea as well. I'm just going to show you, let's see if I can share the screen now. We've got a section on the website which is for this, so hopefully you can see this is Julie Merriman's work. She's been making postcards of each of the port towns, just choosing 2 things to focus on, and she's made these postcards for each. That's Pembroke Dock, these are Fishguard. We had Julie and Marged and also Robert Jakes give talks at our coffee mornings recently as well. They were really, really good, really interesting. A good way to sort of look at the work behind the work, if you like, and think about the thought processes going on. This is Holyhead Station then. So these are going on. I'd also like to show you Robert Jakes' work in particular. This has been a lovely piece that he's done down in Pembroke Dock. Now he made these roundels for a previous project a long time ago, which were connected with the town trail, and the town trail is something we'll talk about later with the app, because we're using these images as part of the app. But this is his mural that he's made for us, which is at Pembroke Dock Terminal. It's called Sea of Stories. As you can see, it focuses really on the sea, on the crossing and the space between the countries. And I think if we look on this one now, there's more on the website about the process of making of it. But James has put this on. So I think if we go in here, just loading on my screen, where you can see the tiles there below. The detail there. What's been interesting about this work is that he's been really looking at lots and lots of different stories and things that lie under the sea and connections between the countries, in a similar sort of way that echoes what we've been doing on the set of stories on Omika as well. It's been quite an interesting way of looking at that. When thinking about ways in which mural might perhaps be reproduced in other places, we're thinking about possibly we could bring it over to Rosslare and install a reproduction of it over there as well. So there's other possibilities and all sorts of things we're thinking about with that work as well. We had a launch for that just last week, which was lovely. First time we've done something in person for a very long time, and so we're really grateful to Port Milford Haven for hosting that. Yes, and hopefully, although the work is finished, it's just sort of an example of something that we're hoping will carry on developing. And we've got other things as well that we're thinking about. In terms of, we like this idea of being able to bequeath these works, where they're physical works, to the towns, and so we're working on other possibilities where we can give, in other cases, photographs, or there's a community boat being made by Margaret Pendrell that hopefully we can bequeath to the community. So we're working on those collaborations as well. So that's some of the work that we would do. Perhaps I'll hand over to Liz now to talk a bit more about the exhibitions.
Thank you, Martin. Yeah, morning, everybody. I suppose what we're building towards with all of these different artworks is a series of exhibitions. The first one is coming up in May, and that one's in Aberystwyth. And the reason for that is partly that we're not launching it in any of our port towns, but this is the first look, I suppose, at all of the artworks. And we'd love it if our stakeholders and friends of the project could join us in Aberystwyth when we launch this first exhibition. That's getting as many of the works together as we can. So that starts on the 7th of May. And then what we will do is we will combine those in different ways in each of the port communities, in different spaces, in different ways. Some of these are going to be larger scale exhibitions where we show as much as we can. Others will be more bespoke and tailored to smaller spaces. But we're going to visit each of the port towns with a collection of these artworks to show them within the communities, and also then, as Martin says, to try and find permanent homes for some of them in public spaces as pieces of public art for the community. It's part of that idea of bringing life and colour to create things like we hope Robert Jakes's mural will become a kind of destination in its own right. So people might come into the port not just passing through and just have their interest piqued by it as they're passing, but actually might pop in specifically to see it because they've heard of it elsewhere, ideally, or we've shown it in Rosslare, so maybe then you go to Pembroke Dock and you see the real thing. We're talking about reproductions like posters, maybe that kind of thing, and that's how we might show it elsewhere. We can't actually take it off the wall and show it elsewhere, sadly, but we're thinking of other ways that we might be able to actually show that image.
We're also thinking digitally as well. I had an interesting chat at the launch we had where there was someone saying, oh, what you really want, because there's so much detail on it, you sort of want to take it with you. So we're thinking if we can create a way where we can have it on the app or online, and you could kind of take it with you on the boat and kind of look at these stories and perhaps follow links off it. So a sort of a direct sort of interactive map, I suppose, is what we're looking at creating out of it, which then could link into our own bigger stories and in fact other creative works we're doing as well. So there's quite nice linkages involved in that particular piece. Sorry, Liz.
No, there's so many possibilities. Yes, so we're going to Pembroke Dock in June, followed by in Rosslare in June, followed by Pembroke Dock, followed by Dublin in August, then Fishguard in September, and our last stop is Holyhead in October. We're going to run events alongside these exhibitions. Also, I don't want to steal Rita's thunder, but there will be a series of film launches as well as part of these events. So yeah, creative celebration of all the work that's come out of Work Package 2 and come out of the project more generally as well. And we'd love to see as many of you there as many of these venues as possible.
That's great. Thank you, guys.
We've also got a couple of books as well. We're looking at creating an anthology, which is just a very kind of light survey of all the different creative practitioners, all the different kinds of work. So that's going to be available in May. We're working hard on that at the moment, gathering material in. We're also hoping to produce another couple of little books as well. For example, a children's book by Gillian Brownson, who's been writing for us up in Holyhead. So we're hoping to produce that as well. And then maybe one or two other little books that we might try and produce along the way as well. As we start to see the work, you see all this wonderful potential for releasing it and distributing it in different ways. So this is a kind of we're trying to be responsive as best we can within our budgets, but trying to be responsive to the treasures that we're kind of turning up in all this process.
I think that's right. I think when the creative work starts to come out, we get all very excited about it and we see all these new potential applications for it. So then that creates more possibilities, but trying to do it all. We want to do it all. So Liz just mentioned there briefly Rita's work on the films, which is part of Work Package 3. Well, it is Work Package 3 basically, isn't it? So Rita, can I hand over to you?
Yep. So we've been busy over the last 12 months shooting in all the 5 ports and on the ferries themselves. And we are just about to near the finish line because we're very busy behind the scenes cutting everything. So we've currently somewhere around cut 8. So we're pretty much there. It's literally just the finishing touches that we're applying at the moment. And we've had some really good conversations this week. Turns out I'm now busy creating German subtitles because apparently the German cruise ship market is quite interested in showing films about the destinations where they're docking. So we're hoping in supplying German subtitles that German cruise ships will be interested in showing the films on board as well. And just to give you an impression of what we're working towards, we've always said they are on the forefront. We're going to make little documentary films. Obviously, the intention is also that on the back of showing, excuse me, showing the beautiful occasions in which these documentaries were made, that will create an incentive for the users of the ferry ships to say, let's arrive a few hours early, or let's stay a few hours after the ship has arrived, instead of just leaving the town as quickly as humanly possible. So that's why we're hoping these films will create an interest in the communities as a tourism destination within its own right, because there's a rich heritage, there's a welcoming community, and it's just a beautiful landscape and townscape all around. I'm going to show you a very brief preview of what we've been working on. Now, mind you, because this is sharing over over online and it's Zoom, it's going to be quite jerky. It's also not quite the finished product because we're still re-recording the voiceover introduction. So what you're going to see is a bad impression, but you will still see the nice images that we have produced on the back of working with a very welcoming community. So this is going to be a preview of the Roots film between Pembroke Dock and Rosslare. And it opens with a poem that was especially written for us for this purpose by Greg Howes from Pembroke Dock. Now let's see if this is going to work.
In this film series, we look into 5 Celtic port towns that are connected and intertwined by the ferry routes that serve them. To get to know the history of these routes, the wonderful wildlife, and the relationships that they continue to nourish, we meet up with Welsh and Irish locals who show us how they're inspired by this fascinating crossing. Pembroke Dock to Rosslare.
Bladerack by Greg Howes. Forged from the fire of the Napoleonic Wars, a new harbour was born, red upon the rock for Pembroke a dock. As the shipyard grew strong, the Cleddau did throng with boats and beaters of steel. Before 1814, Pembroke Dock was little more than a fishing village, a very sleepy fishing village. But after 1814, it became a naval dockyard. Hundreds of ships were built here, and it became of national and worldwide significance. One of the historical points in there is these wonderful gun towers we've got behind us. There are a few of them in the haven, in the waterways leading out, and there's another one at Tenby, and they were actually completed midway through the 19th century, or the plans were drawn up for many years before. I think since the Napoleonic War we've always had a fear of being invaded. By the time that these things were actually finished off in the mid-19th century, the threat from the sea had long gone really, so they became sort of white elephants almost instantly. It does give me a sense of freedom and it makes me feel alive, and it's quite nice to just feel completely immersed in the waters of life, and it's nice to sometimes see what you're actually swimming with as well. The water around these areas are normally quite clear, and you'd be surprised at what you do see in the sea.
So this is a first impression, I hope, of what we've been working towards. And like Liz has mentioned, we are going to launch the films in May, or well, the feature-length film, where we're going to cut all the stories from our 5 individual port towns together into one comprehensive story. And then from June onwards, we're going to visit every one of our port communities and launch the specific short film that was made about each of your communities to the general public. We're going to have a series of events crafted around that. And then we'll finish off in Holyhead in October. And as we're going along, we're releasing these films individually on the internet, so that everybody who wants to use these films to promote your communities, you're free to do in whichever form you would like to use these films. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, one last thing, we're going to send out invitations soon for the launch event in Aberystwyth in Ceredigion Museum. So please watch your inboxes, because we would love to have as many people, especially film participants, come and celebrate the work that they have been contributing, making these films possible. Thank you. Thanks,
Rita. That's just really exciting. That film looks amazing and I want to watch more, and I'm sure everyone else probably agrees. The one thing I would say is that all of this work has been done with your help. It's been done with communities and all the stakeholders involved. So where that becomes even more apparent is through the 4th work package, which looks at the stories of the places that we're of the ports that we're working with, and the content that is developed through this work package and through these stories is then going to be it's material that can be used to then bring in more tourism. So it's the kind of the bread and butter of the project in some ways. So I'm going to let James speak about that a little bit more, and I will also chip in a little bit, and so will Aoife as well at the end.
Hi everyone. So basically, like my colleagues in work packages 2 and 3, previously, I suppose, building up to now, a lot of what we've been doing is creating the means to provide the material that is essentially the project and its legacy. And like everyone else, like the creative work is starting to be available, the films are nearly done, the sort of the pipelines, you might call them, by which the stories which we've been collecting since the start of 2020, I mean, it was in a way, it was our kind of, our way of adapting to COVID and to lockdown, is that we couldn't do all the visits that we would have liked to have been doing then, but we could start gathering in and building up a body of stories. Basically, where we are now is that we're fast approaching 200 stories. They're kind of like a resource, like a body of material. Some of them are stories from community members. Quite a lot of them are stories from community members. Some of them come from Work Package 3, from those who in the community who were involved in the films. Some are from the creatives from Work Package 2. But now what's happening is that we're starting to use that material to create essentially the outputs for Work Package 4, and one of the major ones of those is the app, which is called Port Places. And you can download it like now. If you go to the Apple or Google Play Store, you can download Port Places. And we're just starting to author and release the material for it. So basically, I'll talk a little bit now about our program for that. So the first thing we wanted to do was have something for each of the port towns to open up with. And some of that, in the case of Rosslare Harbour Village and the Rosslare Port, Catherine Agnew, our Wexford County Council lead, helped with members of the community who I know some of you are here to put together, and is continuing to build up an experience, a set of locations, which you can look at on the app now, called Welcome to Rosslare Harbour. which is about the port, about places on the coast, along the Wexford coast, interesting sort of stories that link to the coast, to the port. We've also been doing the same for Fishguard and Goodwick. There's an experience which I'm just sort of adding a few things to from our recent visit to Fishguard and Goodwick, called Coastal Fishguard and Goodwick, that follows the coast along the coastal walk. You can walk along both up the hill and continue up to Goodwick, or you can walk along through Fishguard, or Lower Fishguard, Fishguard Bay, along the coast, both directions. Each of them has a distinct concept like that. The one that's getting very close and is very large and is quite logistically hard to get to this point is reviving the Pembroke Dock Town Trail, which was created in 2005 and involved collaboration with Robert Jakes, who's done the mosaic that's now in the ferry terminal, which is a big, like 40 locations now, big sprawling town walk, updating it, adding media to it, getting it ready to live again, you know, in app form, pegging it to sort of community centres like the Heritage Centre in Pembroke Dock, to the library, to the you know, basically thinking of ways of accessing the town trail. There's other sort of collaborations we're doing in Dublin Port and with partners in Holyhead that will be coming soon. But lastly is the thing I'm working on right now, which is like with the films, each crossing gets a film. Each crossing gets an experience that spans the way when you on the ferry, when you come in or out of that port. So in the case of what I'm working on now, the Milford Haven, all along the coast, all the way in or out Milford Haven to Pembroke Dock. The crossing itself, a combination of oceanic stories, narratives that are, you know, in a particular place on the route, or just stories to entertain ferry crossing, you know, ferry passengers. And then the other end is mirrored so that you can either go in or out of your ports. And there will be 3 of those, 1 for each crossing. And that will be the main culmination. Those will also bring in a lot of the material we've already heard about. It will sort of reference the creative work. It will hopefully contain the films as well. So we'll basically, it's a way of encapsulating in a sort of on your smartphone a lot of the other material. And I guess lastly, I should end by saying that we will talk about this in the second, signage, which basically I think we could briefly talk about at the end. But like, we're going to match this up with a physical presence in each of the ports, so that the app, so that all of our work is kind of linked, grounded in physical space, as well as you know, distributing some ways that people can find the material, and archiving and providing a long-term legacy for all the material, so that anyone who needs to or wants to use it can easily find what they need, and openly licensing it so that it can be used by whoever for whatever purposes they need it for tourism purposes. So that legacy of the stories, contributing them and making sure they continue to be available for indefinitely, that's part of the legacy of Work Package 4.2.
Thanks, James. Yeah, absolutely. And I think just to emphasize that there are certain aspects like the app that will be handed over to the community ultimately, even when we cease to be as a team, that you know, you will be able to add to it and alter it as going forward, so that it yeah, definitely is that legacy that we leave behind. James mentioned the signage, that so we're part of how we advertise the app is to have signage at the different ports, but also just signage relating to the project, relating to the stories, and to try and make it more visible for people entering and exiting the ports. So we've been in conversations with all of the ports, and so far we've had some very positive conversations, and it's basically in process now. It's a matter of time before we can get the signage out. We've just been looking at the spaces and where we can hang things, where things are appropriate. I think we have yet to complete our conversations with Holyhead, but we've been able to visit all of the other ports. So Holyhead's our next visit on the list, which I think is happening next month, which April is on our doorstep tomorrow. So, so I know we're looking forward to that. Yeah, so that's kind of where we are with signage. And then I think just overall, like just to repeat again that all of this is funneling into how our tourism networks are set up and the content that can be used to help them move forward as well. So Aoife's just going to speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks for this, Claire. I just wanted to add as well, I don't know if anyone noticed we went straight to work package 2 and there was no work package 1. It might seem very mysterious, like who knows what we're doing in work package 1, but in fact it's much more mundane. It is in fact a kind of governance and reporting work package. So it covers mainly our requirements for reporting on the project and keeping good records of our activity and receiving funding from the funders. So it's not really of interest, we would think, to report on, but I'm reporting that we're reporting appropriately. So consider that the update is quite an ongoing thing. There's also a work package 6 that's about publicity, about keeping a strong positive profile on social media and engaging with people through our newsletter, social media, website, all of which is ongoing as well. So if anyone was wondering about those kind of mysterious work packages. To move on to speaking about tourism networks, so this is part of work package 5. Work package 5 is focused on improving kind of local skills in using heritage and stories that are there, but also that hopefully our project is contributing to in a modest way to increase tourism. We have we have one network, we will have 2. So we do consider, as of recently, our coffee morning sessions to form a network as such. So the group that comes to that regularly, we've asked them if they are willing to sign up to a mailing list that makes them a part of that group as a network. And the idea is that they regularly get updated about the online coffee mornings. We're very much fostering that monthly space, online space, as somewhere that people can discuss heritage and creative themes linking to the project. It's called a tourism network. It's more of a heritage and creative network that's happening through those coffee mornings. So with that in mind, we realized that there was a need potentially to take more of a kind of pure tourism focus. So we have designed another network as part of work package 5 that is focused more on tourism professionals who may not have the time or the interest in coming along and sharing lovely heritage stories, but may nonetheless be interested in using heritage material to promote their local areas or to promote their own businesses. So we are out for quotes at the moment to receive external expertise on this item into the project. So I will update when there's an outcome on that. The current deadline is April 8th, so it's not this Friday, next Friday. So we hope to get some interest through that and to appoint a supplier. So that will be bringing us right up pretty much to the end of the project with that piece of work. It will involve, the idea is to promote tourism business growth through heritage storytelling, to promote the use of the project material that we've created, to help disseminate tourism material, or to help heritage related tourism, pardon me, and to deepen tourism links between the port towns for potential collaborations. What we'd love to see emerging are kind of packages formed between businesses across the Irish Sea. This was designed with working closely with our stakeholder board. So thank you to our board members for advising on this piece of work, and we hope it can live up to what they envisioned for it as well. There will be 5 formal online training sessions delivered by that expert, and the idea would be to be sharing skills and developing links that would hopefully endure beyond the project and beyond the existence of that network within the project. So that's what we're hiring a supplier for at the moment. And again, I'll keep you updated and we'll certainly advertise it widely when it is in existence. Our more informal cultural heritage and creative network does exist through those coffee mornings. Do join, do share with others that it exists, and we're kind of trying to make it more of a group as such, but of course anyone is welcome to jump in and out to any sessions they wish. I will include a link in the chat in a moment for the form to sign up to that, but we love having that space as well for really having those conversations between academics, community members, and having really interesting people in to talk. So that's it for the network side. Back to you, Claire.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, I left out the, as you say, the mundane stuff. Like that was the behind the scenes work I didn't think anyone wanted to hear about, but maybe I'm wrong. The other thing to add to that is with the tourism side of things, the port fests and events are a large part of that. Now, I know that last year that didn't go ahead in the way that we had envisaged because of COVID, and everything had to take place online. But fingers crossed that we will be able to do everything in person this year. So we were going to have another round of port fests, and I'm just going to ask Liz to talk a little bit about that.
Thanks, Claire. Yes, this is the event that will mainly run alongside the exhibitions. So we would love to get our creative commissions, get our people in to talk about the work they've been doing, or in some cases, so on the part of the writers, maybe to perform some of their work. We have a piece based or response to Under Milkwood called After Milkwood, which is a kind of reimagining of Under Milkwood in a Rosslare setting. So we're really hoping to maybe get that play for voices performed, at least in part. So yeah, and we're still kind of organising our calendar of events, but they will feature our practitioners, they will run alongside the exhibitions and the film launches and all these other things. And just, yeah, to show some of our work live, really, the work that can be performed live. We have theatre makers involved. Again, we have, a script that can be performed. It'd be really exciting to see these things come to life face to face. So fingers crossed that happens.
Yeah, hopefully now things are looking good at the moment, aren't they? So that's kind of a gist, and it just emphasized that really, we are still very much a work in progress. And as James mentioned, the pandemic slowed things down. I think in certain areas we wished we were farther ahead, but we're very quickly catching up with these things now, actually, like extremely quickly. So I think you'll start to see more products coming out over the next few months. Yeah, I think unless anyone has anything else to say, I think the only other thing really is just to say thank you to everyone. Thank you to all the stakeholders, because all the work that we've been doing is built on your knowledge of the areas that you live in, and you're communicating that magic, really, which we're then trying to disseminate in all these different forms. Thank you to the team for being so amazing all of the time. Yeah, I hope that you'll enjoy all that's to come in the next few months. So unless any of the team have anything else to contribute, I think we'll just hand over for questions, if that sounds good. Yep, any questions? Jeremy, is that, I think?
Yeah, I wondered whether in Martin's unenviable workload, he's been able to give any thought to the book that we originally envisaged on the stained glass in Fishguard.
I'm always giving thought to that, Jeremy. It's not something that's going to happen for the next month or two while we get the anthology together. But I know we will be down in Pembroke and Fishguard before too long. So yeah, we can certainly return to that if that's something you're hoping to do again. Yes, I mean it's something I want to add to the apps as well. So it's a part of research I'm hoping to do very much in actually a number of the ports as well. But certainly, yes, we can look at that again, Jeremy. Yeah.
Thank you. And I've just emailed Evie about the fact that we've got a digital display in Fishguard bus station on which we can put posters which roll between the bus timetables, so that each poster is visible for 10 seconds before it reverts to the bus timetable. And so I've asked if we could perhaps have a poster. I sent you the spec for that. So something that might promote the app there, that would be helpful.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, great. It's always easy just to design up something quickly like that. You know, we've got quite a lot of material now, so yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
I think that's it. There's the materials there. So once we identify all these different things we can do with it, it sort of just gets exponential then after that. So hopefully it'll spread really easily.
But I like that artwork from Pembroke, the tiles. I think that's got a big potential, and I've been trying to save it somewhere, but I'm not sure whether I've got it. But I'm sure we could develop that.
It's certainly something we could reproduce very large, because I can photograph it almost tile by tile, and then we can do a photographic reproduction. And I mean, it costs money. We need to find the budget for it, but certainly it's as relevant to Rosslare and Fishguard as it is to Pembroke Dock, because it's very much about that space between. So yeah, certainly we can look at that. Thank you.
Make a great tea towel.
Ideally, we're archiving it at full quality, which would mean there would be a very high quality copy available for making other formats. So I mean, I know Martin's taking an even bigger quality picture, so there's like loads of potential there.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeremy. I see
Northern Ireland always the best place to get tea towels made. So
I'm just going to move over to Colin. You have a question?
Hey, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a bit of an observation, and it might be way beyond the scope of the project, but I'm kind of noticing that this bifurcation that you've mentioned between tourism promotion and creativity and heritage, and I fully recognize it and the magnitude of the difference between those two things, and how different people's energies would be very different in those two sectors. One very business-led and, let's say, mercenary, and one much more open and engaging with community and with possibilities and appreciation of the surroundings of the ports and what they could potentially bring for people who want to dwell and enjoy them. And I'm just wondering, is it possible to, I actually think it's not going to be possible within the scope of this project to link those two things back together, but to keep an eye on any possibilities that might happen of reconciling the mercenary with the creative. That, I know it's an enormous challenge and a bit ridiculous, but if you could just keep an eye on how can bridges be built between those two things, I think that would be admirable, and to just notice where they conflict or where they could potentially become harmonious as the project progresses. I think that would be a lovely thing to observe or to note, or see how those things could get back together again.
Thanks, Colin. Yeah, I think our hope is that we will create networks around with communities of interest, across the sea, and that hopefully the two can work together and they don't have to be, so separate. So
one observation I have is that because of the way things panned out during the pandemic, one thing we did have more time for was to set up our infrastructure for sharing and compiling the material after the end of the project. And we are very explicitly putting it together in a way where it will be clear that it's Creative Commons licensed. I mean, it will have some clauses on it about its use, but most of it will be fully usable with the credit. We have to maintain, that it be used with the funder's statement. But other than that, basically we want people to take it in a mercenary way and use it for whatever they want. I mean, we are a regional development project that does not and cannot make money. We are producing things for community benefit without ourselves be not, so basically we're creating it, we're putting it there, and at a kind of creating a resource for the end of the project level, we very much want it to be usable in whatever way people see fit in the future.
Kind of reassuring, Colin, to hear the sound of familiarity in your voice when you talk about the split, because that it's unknown to you, I suppose. In a sense, it's something, building those bridges is exactly the task we've set ourselves for the time we've left. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's very much at the forefront of our minds, actually. So we'll be working feverishly away on that aspect of things over the next while. So yeah, has anyone else got anything to add or any questions at all? No? Shall we close then? For now, well, thank you all for attending. I really appreciate it, and we'll put this recording up on our YouTube channel afterwards, so that you can reference it again, or if anyone would like to have the update that they haven't had a chance to attend, then please share it. Feel free to share it. Yeah, I just hope that you'll be happy with what comes next. I think we're all excited about it. You know, we've had such great interactions with stakeholders, and I think in some ways it can come across as a very much an academic driven project, but actually it's not. It really is coming from the ground up, and yeah, just wanted to kind of reassure everyone about that. And I hope that by the end of it, it will feel more like that as well, that it is more of a community owned venture. So thanks again. And I'm sure we'll be in touch soon, and all the best, everyone.
Thanks, Claire.
Bye, Claire. Thanks.